Josh Saunders, better known as KingCobraJFS, has tragically passed away. If you've been on the internet long enough, you've probably heard his name floating around. Some people called him a lolcow, while some people were genuine fans that considered him a cult figure. To some, he was just an eccentric guy from Casper, Wyoming, who made food hacks, wild drink combos, and late-night rants. To others, he was a man battling alcoholism, depression, and a lifetime of bullying and harassment. But more than anything, Josh was a human being, and the way his death has been handled, especially by the creators who built their platforms on documenting him, says a lot about the ethics of lolcow content. Before his death, creators like Kiwi Tapes and Smokey McC had been covering Josh for years. Their channels became known for documenting his life in detail. Actually, I believe Kiwi Tapes' first ever video was on Josh.
I mean, I made my first YouTube video ever on Josh. It's now long since been deleted, but the first video on my channel is about Josh going to jail. It's just nuts, man. There were sagas to Josh, like there were eras, right?
And let's be clear, their coverage wasn't neutral. It wasn't simple documentation, it was clearly packaged as entertainment.
Last time we covered the gothic bad boy of Casper, Wyoming, he had just been evicted from his apartment. Cobra ordered Taco Bell with all the fixins, he would congratulate Jessica on her 40th birthday, and order massive quantities of Wendy's. It was clear that he was missing her.
Kiwi Tapes presented Josh's life like an ongoing TV series. Each crisis became a saga or an arc in his storyline.
There were sagas to Josh, like there were eras, right? You know, you had Gothic King Cobra 52 when he was in Clint's basement, then you had him at his first apartment, and you had him at his second apartment, then the trailer, and there's been millions of sagas in between.
The Jessica relationship saga, the food hack disasters, the alcohol-fueled rants. Every little thing this guy did became part of the Cobraverse.
I also noticed during this food hack just how long Josh's fingernails are getting. They've always been a little bit long, but I've never seen them like this. Both the thickness and length are astonishing. Truly something to be proud of.
Smokey took a slightly different approach. He framed it more like commentary, mocking Josh's antics while breaking down the drama.
This is Josh Saunders, or better known as KingCobraJFS. He's a man who is pretty well known on this here internet, and he's one of many individuals you can find online displaying his ridiculous daily antics for the world to see.
He pointed out Jessica's manipulation, but still treated Josh's reactions as content, as moments to laugh or shake your head at when he was a vulnerable man in an abusive relationship.
And so after saying a bunch of shit like that about Josh, you'd imagine Jessica wouldn't want to go back there with him, and vice versa with Josh. With Jessica, you know, we heard what he said in that video right there. You can't imagine they would ever want to see each other again.
Even when they did acknowledge the seriousness, Josh's alcoholism, his abusive relationships, it was always repackaged for consumption. And that's the problem. Once you frame someone's struggles as content that you cover repeatedly, you've already turned them into a caricature. Take Smokey's last video on Josh. The whole framing boils down to one message. Jessica ruined Josh's life. Smokey makes it clear that Jessica is manipulative, unstable, and destructive, and in that sense, he's not wrong at all. But let's look at the way he frames Josh. Josh is described as a severely autistic man, almost as a tagline, a way to highlight his strangeness.
Jessica just does not know how to react to this because Josh is kind of putting all their dirty laundry out here on full display. It's kind of what you get though when you have someone like Josh, a severely autistic man.
But clearly, Mr. Smokey has never seen someone with actual severe or profound non-vocal autism in his sheltered little life. Josh's moments of despair and threats of self-harm weren't treated as cries for help. They were treated like another shocking plot twist in the ongoing Cobra saga.
Josh threatens to off himself at one point. Jessica yet again accuses Josh of abuse, and it's just a really, really weird video.
Something to gasp at, react to, and then move past. There's definitely sympathy there, but it's wrapped in ridicule. Josh isn't presented as a human being. He's presented as a bizarre character who keeps making bad choices, someone we're supposed to shake our heads or laugh at. Kiwi's last video takes a similar approach. He covers Jessica and Josh's fights in details, highlights Josh's delusions, mocks his unsafe cooking, and lingers on his erratic behavior. But it's all structured in an episodic recap, the Jessica arc. The food hack disasters, the hallucination subplot. Entertaining? Yes, but you have to stop and ask, at whose expense? Because here's the thing, the audience picks up on that framing. When you repeatedly present a man's decline as serialized content, people don't just laugh at the story. They start to view the person as a character rather than a human. On Kiwi's video, the top comment wasn't about concern or sadness or even entertainment value. It was this:
"Legit, if I ever found myself in Casper, Wyoming, I'll be on the search for Josh like a bushman tracking a lion."
Now maybe that was meant as a joke, but think about what it reveals. Josh wasn't seen as a human being at that point at all. He was being cast as prey, something to stalk, something to hunt, and that mindset doesn't appear out of thin air. It's cultivated by years of coverage that reduce his struggles into consumable content. This is where the line between documentation and exploitation disappears. Let's talk about Kiwi and Smokey's memorial livestream for Josh. They got on stream to toast to Josh, to share their grief, to tell viewers, don't harass his dad, show some respect. And to their credit, they even donated the unintended money gifted from memberships to charity, doubling it out of their own pockets. That's not nothing. It's more than a lot of creators would do, and it shows that their sadness was at least in part genuine. But here's the contradiction. Even in mourning, the livestream looked a lot like, well, their regular content. Drinking and smoking in his honor.
My Cobra's missed. I regret to inform you that while the Mountain Dew was warm, the beer was cold, so it's not the traditional serving way. It has to be warm, but I think it's warmed up enough.
Audience polls asking people to share their favorite Josh moments.
Man, what's your favorite Josh moment? Mine's gotta be, the Warlord shirt is amazing, right?
It's the Warlord shirt. For me, it's the Warlord shirt.
Announcing future retrospectives like a highlight reel of his best content. This memorial wasn't separate from the entertainment. It was the entertainment.
I think something I want to announce now, just so you guys are aware, this upcoming Wednesday, we'll probably be having a type of retrospective, going back, looking at all of Josh's like best shit. This is weird, chat.
I'm excited for that.
Weird.
I've been waiting to do something like that for quite some time. I wish it would be different circumstances, but I don't know when we'll ever, watch Josh on the show again.
This upcoming Wednesday.
Josh's death became another engagement event, another storyline in the saga, and that's where the sympathy feels compromised. Now let's contrast that with Josh's dad, Clint. Clint's video is absolutely heartbreaking. He describes going to Josh's house to take him to the doctor, finding him unresponsive, trying to revive him, and realizing that his son was already gone. There's no spectacle, no live audience interaction, no saga, just pure grief from a parent who lost their child. Clint talks about how Josh was bullied from the time he was 3, how he lived with depression and suicidal thoughts for most of his life, how he was stubborn, yes, but also kind to strangers, to animals, even to insects. He thanks the fans who made Josh feel valued. He reminds us that Josh was a beautiful soul, someone who loved fiercely even while struggling. And then he says something that cuts through everything. He mattered. That one line destroys the lolcow framing, because lolcow content, by definition, operates on the idea that these people are figures of ridicule. Their lives are consumable. They don't really matter outside of the entertainment they provide. Clint forces us to remember that Josh wasn't some character in a story. He was a son, a person, a human being with dignity. So here's the paradox of lolcow content. Creators care, but they capitalize. Kiwi and Smokey clearly felt sadness. They made charitable donations. They discouraged harassment. But their entire platform is built on turning Josh's vulnerability into entertainment. Harassment isn't condemned, it's enabled. Both said don't harass his dad, yet their content primes audiences to mock, troll, and dehumanize people. That Bushman hunting for Josh comment? That comes directly from the framing their videos reinforce. Sympathy is sincere, but compromised. Their grief isn't fake, but it coexists with years of ridicule. Mocking his autism, mocking his addictions, replaying his meltdowns. You can't have it both ways forever. And that's the heart of it. Lolcow commentary thrives on a contradiction. Josh's death is a tragedy, plain and simple. But what makes it harder to swallow is how much of his life was already consumed, long before he passed. Consumed by trolls who sent him alcohol or encouraged his unhealthy habits. Consumed by audiences who laughed at his hallucinations and meltdowns. Consumed by creators who built their brands on documenting his decline. And when he died, that consumption hasn't stopped. It just shifted. Suddenly, it's time to mourn, time to toast, time to make a retrospective. But Clint's video shows us what we really lost. A son who mattered. A person who was bullied from childhood but still managed to bring joy to thousands of people. A person who deserves to be remembered as something more than just a lolcow. So here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't build a brand on someone's suffering and then cleanly distance yourself from the consequences when tragedy strikes. Smokey and Kiwi's grief may be real, their donations may be genuine, but the structure they operate in, the lolcow commentary harassment machine, is exploitative by design. And that's what makes their memorial feel so conflicted. Sympathy coexisting with spectacle. Mourning coexisting with content. Clint said it best. Josh mattered. Not because he was entertaining, not because he made people laugh, but because he was a human being who deserved to be treated with dignity regardless of his antics. Maybe the most respectful thing the internet could do now is finally let him rest.